Okay, so we are going to be making winter luminaries. So luminaries, anything that light can shine through, to put a light inside, like an LED votive candle or a candle itself. So we are going to be using some Columbus Clay Company white sculpture clay, which is a low fire clay from code 06 to 04, which means it goes up to about 1900-ish degrees. So it's not a stoneware, so it's not as durable as that. However, it is a nice clay to work with and works for the kiln, so that's what we're doing. Basically, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut a chunk of clay that's about 6 pounds, also-ish. So the box from Columbus Clay Company is a 50-pound box, which means that this is half the box, which makes it 12.5 pounds each of these little logs. So there's 25 pounds in the bag, 12.5 pounds in each of these logs. So I am going to be using half of one of these logs. So I'm going to use a wire tool, which slides right through the clay so that I separate this top log. And then I'm going to cut it in half. So it'll be about 6.25 pounds. Ish. Everything's very ish. So I'm going to take this, set it here. All right, so now we need to get this clay punched down. It is straight out of the bag. If it was not, you would definitely need to wedge it. I've had good luck with Columbus Clay Company not having a lot of air pockets. However, we're going to be punching it down, taking out our aggression, and making this a nice flat slab. So we're going to make it into a nice pancake. So we're going to get the most energy work here first by pounding it down, which if it does have any air pockets, this will most likely eliminate that. So there's a good aggression and or anger management therapy. What we're going to do now, I'm going to put 2 of these sticks on either side. This is a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, so I know that my depth is going to be 1/4 inch. If you wanted it thicker, you could stack these up 2 on top of each other. However, we don't want it to be too chunky. We want to have a nice thin layer. So I'm going to take my rolling pin, which is had better days, and I'm just going to start rolling this out. Incidentally, what makes this sculpture clay is the fact that this has a bit of grog in it. The grog is just an already fired clay that's been ground up, and it helps the clay to dry out evenly so that if you do have any little bits of air, there is less likelihood of it exploding. It helps that to dry evenly as well. I think I said that. So what I'm trying to do is roll this evenly. However, I have exceeded my measurement here. So I'm going to take my needle tool, just going to draw a line, peel this off. I'm going to put it with my other roll of clay there. Boop. Now, honestly, the 6 pounds is probably more than I actually needed. So I am going to trim off a bit here. I'm going to take this, flip it around. Sometimes clay gets very persnickety. So if you do roll it out in one direction and you don't reverse it, it can, clay has a memory, so it can crack or sort of run or pull in weird ways. So you want to try to reverse it. You do have to put a good amount of force on this. And you'll notice that the rolling pin was used with a white moist clay from Amico. And the Amico clay is significantly lighter in color than the Columbus Clay Company clay. It is, however, the same low fire clay. It's just a different color because the recipe is slightly different. So I've found that if there's a little bit of that clay in one or the other, it does not affect the way the clay takes glaze at all. It just really has that color, and it will all fire white when it's bisque, when it's fired one time through the kiln. If you want to make sure that it doesn't stick to your roller, you can take a second piece of cloth and really like get it so that it's nice and smooth. I was just noticing that it was sticking to my roller, so I just wanted to kind of put that in there. So that gives me my nice slab. I've got a little pucker in it, but it's not going to affect it. Luminaries can be any shape. You could technically build a box with it. You could roll it around a tube, which I'll show a couple different ways of doing it. So here's a cardboard tube, a little bit wider than gift wrap tube. I would say it's about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. It'll give you a nice size luminary. I also have little cones, so they make kind of a tree-ish look to them. So they kind of go on an angle anyway when you roll them out. So we will do a couple. All right. So newspaper. Oh, look at that. It is from May, so we're not up to date on our current events. We're going to take at least 3 layers and roll it around the tube. Do not tape it to the tube. You want it to come out. So I just took that one, rolled it around, and do this one. So I'm just rolling it, not as, you could get it tighter than this, but I don't want to. So you just want to roll it around. One more. Okay, tuck it. Now this gives me a cylinder shape for the luminary. Oh look, there's our wind turbine. Bird lovers are in a battle over the wind turbine as of May 2018. I live right across from it, and I've not had any issues. So, all right, the thing that we're going to do before we wrap it around this tube is I'm going to square off this edge. Just kind of use my needle tool to pick it up. And then I'm going to square off this edge. And I'm going to taper this side a bit. I like to get a little bit of an angle so that when they overlap, they come together really nicely. You have to decide how tall you want this luminary to be. So right now it is, I don't have a ruler right here. Currently, it is just shy of 10 inches. Now, when clay goes through the kiln, it is going to shrink. This clay shrinks by about 10%, so it will be approximately an inch shorter. So I don't really want it to be that tall. You can make it really as tall as you can structurally get it. I'm going to go with 8 inches because I think when that is fired, it'll shrink to just shy of 7 1/4. And I don't know, I just think that'll look nice. So I'm going to mark here and here. I like to square things up before I cut. Some people cut and then measure it out. I just think that's more work than you need to do. So if you do the work beforehand, you're good. All right, I'm going to take this seam of newspaper and I'm going to roll it. And right now I've got it stopping right here. And I do want to have a little bit of an overlap because your clay is thicker than the tube and the paper. So you want to have it slightly longer. That way you can always trim something off, but it's kind of a pain to add on. So I'm going to take that and peel off this excess. And I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to taper this side again. Whee! It doesn't have to be perfect. Would help if I move that out of the way. So I'm tapering the side, just kind of doing that. You can also go like this, and even it. You don't have to. It's fine. All right, so I'm going to take this. I've got the hiccups. I'm going to hold my breath. All right, so I'm rolling this, and when this gets over here, I'm going to put a little bit of water, and I'm going to rough this up a little bit on both sides where they come together, because you want to either put slip, which is a watered down clay, or like score this area. You want to go in the same direction, just so that they lock together. A little more water, because you do not want it to trap air. That will do as much damage as not scoring it at all. So I'm just going to roll this like jelly roll. So now I've got a seam. I like these metal ribs. Some people like to use a wooden tool to drag. But because I tapered it, it has a nice fit. So I'm just going to drag this a little bit. It'll take off a little bit of the excess so that I've got a nice edge there. I'm just going to put that little bloop that I scraped off into the water because it's my slip area anyway. Gives me a nice cylinder. Now, if you didn't want to make a luminary, if you wanted to make a cup, if you wanted to make a vase, you could put a base on this and go to town. You can still put a base on it for a luminary. We're going to make a separate base so that the luminary can lift off and be put back on. But if you wanted to join the base on, all you would do is score a bit, put it on there, blend it together just like I did with that seam, and you would have a solid base. Then you could pull a handle. It would be a huge beer stein, but we're going with Luminaries today. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to set it up on end. And I'm going to put the hairdryer on it. The reason for the hairdryer and the fact that I can't reach, it would help if I brought the cord down here. Hang on for a hot second while I fetch it. Maybe. Must disconnect. Okay. All right. So we're using hair dryer, and I'm blowing my tools off the table, which is great. Alright, I have a little box mounted here. So I'm going to let this sit there while I roll out some of my excess clay to make a cone. Alright, so, oh, for Pete's sake. Okay. So my cylinder is drying. So I'm going to take my clay here. Now this I definitely need to wedge. Spiral. Alright, well, I've wedged it at least 50 times, so I'm going to go with it because I'm still going to be punching it down. Punch. Let me turn this so it doesn't get too dry on one side, not the other. Just repeating the steps. It's ish. This isn't like a professional pottery studio, so I'm not really concerned about the ishness and the, I should say, exactness of my thing. So I'm gonna kind of roll my cone here. And I'm going to add a little overlap here. Not quite even, however, I can trim it off. And I'm going to keep this to roll out a little bit more for my bases. I just threw some on the floor, you know, like you do. Alright, so I'm going to wrap my cone. I'm going to roll it so I can tuck this up in here and recycle that. Personally, I just recycled it in the circular file, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I try to be ecologically conscious, but by the way, I'm repping my Saks school specialty apron, thinking if they see this, maybe they'll send me something. I teach art, so we use a lot of supplies from school specialty and everybody. So. Okay. Alright. So I am going to start at this edge. I just tapered the edges. Turning my cylinder. Try that out some more. I'm gonna wrap this around. So you basically play with what shapes you want. Now I am going to trim this because I've added a bit too much. So I'm going to trim it right about there. Taper again. Okay. Don't go crazy. Okay. Overlapping. Pressing together. It's like a giant snowman nose. I'm just kind of pinching because I wanted it to be a point. I'm kind of being overly anal retentive about that. You don't need a point. It can be rounded. but it's up to you. Again, this is to your liking. This is not something that's super intense. It might look like it sometimes, but it's really not. Alright, so I have a little bit of overlap here, but I kind of like the height that it currently is. So what I would do is either take a piece of newspaper or paper towel, just something to give it something to sit on. You can also take this and roll it on the table once it sets a bit, just to give it a little more strength. The clay is very flexible when you first start working with it, so it's got that plastic quality, which is just its moldability, modeling capacity. So I'm going to let that sit in front of my thing, but I'm going to turn this off right now. So now my cylinder is still flexible, but it is firmer. Let me check my thing here. 27 minutes. Oh, wow. Okay. My camera skills are lacking. I've never professed to being a good photographer and or cinematographer. Oh, I've got the hiccups, and I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, holy moly. Okay. So, this is where you can, this is where you're coming up with your design that you want for your luminary. You can take a piece of paper, wrap it around, and then like make your designs and draw them out and be very painstaking with what design you want. If you want something that is symmetrical, or you want something on two sides specifically, again, I've got hiccups and sneezes, so I'm having issues. You can take a piece of paper and you can painstakingly draw things out here and here so that they are equal. You can make something that's very symmetrical, and you can wrap it around, you can trace it, and then you can cut it out. I'm just going for the more free form quality, and for that I have drinking straws, which I think blew across the floor onto the ground. Sure did. And I have some little tubes. So these are brass tubes. Honestly, it doesn't matter. As long as they've got a hole, you're good. I've made them with aluminum flashing before. You can make your own cookie cutters that way too. Now, I could draw stuff on here. I could make like a little tree and then cut out little lines. I am just going to take this, and when I press in with it, you can see here, it does a perfect little hole. I can take this larger one, because of the larger thing here. Oh, and I could take these and I could put them on here if I really, really wanted to. It's an idea. There are all kinds of things you can do. I'm just kind of coming through, doing that, pressing those out. It's like Rolaids. I'm not stressed at all. Okay, so this is slightly smaller, so you can kind of see there. I can take this and extrude that out of there. I can also take this little one because this is a tube, it has a tendency to gather that bit of clay in there. So, wow. That shot it right out of there. That's fun. Now this one I won't be able to get it out of, but I mean, unless I have a super tiny wire. But I don't even know if I really like the look of that one. I'm just kind of grouping them and placing them next to each other just to get an interesting design. I kind of like the bubble quality of it. So it's really just whatever look you want to go for. You can sketch and cut designs. If you had tiny little cookie cutters, you could probably use those. Obviously, you have to be cautious. Yeah, I don't like the tiny one. I like this one. Just 'cause I think it gives just enough texture and doesn't make it look as much like Swiss cheese as this one does. Yeah. Just don't love it. I mean, I'm gonna do it so I can be a little bit more consistent, but so you can kind of see like up here where I'm getting my little holes. You can also do like specific shapes, like maybe you want to curve like a Vincent van Gogh kind of quality boob. It's your design. You go for it. I would leave a 1/2 inch of border at the top and the bottom. I would say for stability's sake, it might not need it. However, I'm going to err on the side of caution and do that for now, unless I feel like design-wise it's necessary, or it'll take it. So this is your cone. You can do the same thing. You can cut strips, but again, you want to make sure that it's structurally stable. After you do that, let me just show real quickly how to do the base, because I can go in with my designs a bit more in a minute. This is more the technical side. So, and we're going to do about 2 hours just to work on getting your design together for your piece to be constructed and then designed. And 2 hours should be plenty of time to do that. Just getting it in there. I'm gonna put that other piece of fabric. My rolling pin is a little rough, and the fabric makes it a little smoother. I'm going to grab a couple things to make circles. Basically, you just want to have either a circle template or bulwark. You kind of take your piece, look at it, That's honestly enough space. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to trace it. All right, so I've traced my circle. Peel this off. You can add little nubbin feet to it. You can leave it flat. I would say just leave it flat, and then we can put either a piece of craft foam on the back or a piece of felt just to keep it from scratching a surface. You do want to have something to keep your your luminary thing from sliding. Therefore, I'm going to pull this tube out of the center real quick. It should be structurally stable enough with that air running past it to keep it from falling. You don't ever want to leave the tube in it to dry because it will shrink around your tube and crack right down the side. I've had plenty of students that did not listen to that and then, oh no, what happened? Gotta pay attention. Okay, so I just kind of press that in. If you want to like literally make a divot, go for it. It's up to you. It's really just your thing. More anal retention. Can't leave well enough alone. If you were happy with it, then you could leave it that way. I'm just gonna smooth this a little bit so I just have a little, you can see the grit of the grog of the sculpture clay right there when I do that. It's kind of cool. Makes it a little swirly. Okay. I'm gonna cut a strip of this 1/4 inch clay. I know for a fact that it's 1/4 inch because I just rolled it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to be smoothing it down. Now I just used the sponge and I kind of roughed up that surface because it's the sculpture clay. I'm just going to put some water. I'm going to take this, bring this around. Because this was a little bit taller on the one side, I actually am gonna like use my fingers and kind of slide it because it was a little bit short. Like I did not measure that. I want to measure it first because there can be good surprises and there can be bad surprises, just saying. Alright, so I'm going to smooth this out. Because I did not fully score this, I just roughed it up. You do want to make sure you put plenty of pressure on here so that there is no seam to the clay, because basically the air will get into that seam and it will just pop right off. Even though it's stuck right now, it will pop off. So when there's no seam and it's both at the same level of moisture content, it is far more likely that it will not, but err on the side of caution. So I'm smoothing this out. There's a tiny little divot in my ridge here that I'm not fully happy with. You can take a little of this like and just make sure there's water in there. It was a little bit muddy, but there. So I have enough room for either a candle to sit in here. Remember, it's going to shrink by 10%, so always make it a little bit bigger. It's just shy of the width of the interior here. So when this fits over the top, it should be good. You can also get out the ruler. Go. Yes, that's 2 3/4. And oh yes, that one is also 2 7/8. So I've got enough room. Once they set up, you'll put it over it too. So. I'm gonna also take my sponge because I'm, being anal retentive again. And I'm gonna go around this edge. You could write your initials in the bottom once this sets up. All right, so it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You could write a little message, right? Like, fine, yeah, fine. Candle in the wind. I don't know. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to work on my design a little bit more. Yeah, there she blows.